Deep in the forests of North America, a creature is said to exist. A creature that people are encountering. With far too many reports to ignore, there are elements of truth behind these accounts that mankind can no longer ignore.
Breaking news out of Texas, Bigfoot is real.
Could a breeding population of large, upright, hairy hominids really exist in North America? Or is there something more paranormal at work here, deep in the woods? If just one footprint, one wood knock, or one howl is real, then man's understanding of primate evolution would be changed forever. Join the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective as they delve further into the mysteries of Bigfoot and other paranormal phenomena through the eyes of witnesses, investigators, critics, and skeptics. Join us as we look to discover what lurks from behind tall trees.
Alrighty.
Back.
Abe, really appreciate you coming on the show, man. Been wanting to get you on here for a while. So to start out, let's just get right into it. Why is Minnesota one of maybe, if not the most underrated state for what we do for Bigfoot research?
So Minnesota is a very conservative state. A lot of people do not come forward with their sightings or encounters just out of plain fear of being ridiculed. Simple as that. You know, there's a lot more out there than what are on websites from what people are reporting on what our websites already have. And in doing this, one of our objectives, besides proving this creature exists, is to be a safe haven for people to come and turn to and say, yeah, you know what, I've seen one. We want to be that safe haven where people will not be in fear of being ridiculed or made fun of or judged or anything like that. I've been doing this for a little over 22 years now. And I have heard a fair amount of what people may call crazy or out of this world or that's just too far out there type of stuff. I've also heard a lot of stuff myself and seen a few things too. But in the long run, what it comes down to is a lot of people just don't want to be made fun of and called crazy or what were you on and stuff like that. There's a lot of people out there, doctors, lawyers, who love to travel and go out to the BWCA Boundary Water Canoe area up on there bordering Canada. And they go on these portages with their canoes and hikes and stuff like that. And they have things happen to them. But they don't want it to be put out there. So.
Someone's got, okay, there we go.
You're saying they don't want to be put out there just because of the ridicule and stuff like that. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I'm coming to find out in the past 22 years over those 22 years of doing this. There's a lot of people that will submit a report and be like, hey, you know what, it's cool if you read it, just don't say my name, or we want to keep this location private. And we'll totally honor that. We'll call you Jane or John Doe, like we have, oh my gosh, this past Mother's Day sighting that we were out documenting and stuff like that. People, a lot of that has to come down to their jobs too. If that word gets back to their jobs, how they'll be back on in the work environment stuff as well. Sure. And just not in the work environment, but the whole community or the town or stuff too. So I mean, there's a lot of contributing factors. But like I say, more or less comes down to being a very conservative state, and a lot of people get in fear of being ridiculed.
Yeah, and you know, as someone who's lived, you know, like I lived there for about a year, you know, like out, you know, like yeah, like the Twin Cities are kind of like ritzy, you know, like ritzy and whatnot, but when you go outside of the Twin Cities, and it's a totally different environment, you know.
Absolutely, and that's just how it is. I mean, we have that good neighbor type of feel. Minnesota nice is what it's called, but it's where we all like to try to watch out for everybody. And put ourselves out there to help one another. And that's something you really don't see a whole lot of today. Everybody usually in the city is out for themselves. But in these smaller towns that are about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from the Twin Cities, we still see that small town mentality, and that's just an awesome feeling to go out there. And that's one of the reasons why I like Reamer, Minnesota. They recently declared themselves the home of Bigfoot. And when I got wind of that back in 2015, 2016, I was like, oh yeah, really? I was on the same page as it being like the Pacific Northwest out there. Bobo and Cliff were like, oh yeah, when they did that show Finding Bigfoot in 2014. No, it was 2016 when we filmed that episode. They were like, yeah, you know what, more or less Pacific Northwest. But when we took them out to one of our research areas and we got that wood knot, they're like, yeah, there is definitely a squatchy habitat that we have here in the land of 10,000 lakes.
Yeah. Especially
you go up north. Is it mountainous or is it just wooded?
We have big hills, nothing mountainous in any way, shape, or form. Mountains are I would say, we have some hills like West Virginia would have hills, or some of the Ozarks would have some hills.
Like 4,000.
But when it comes to mountain, and when I'm flying out to the West Coast, like Mount Shasta, that's a mountain. That's I mean, you can see that from a mile away, miles away, I should say. And but we have nothing like that here in Minnesota. So it's like a lot of big hills that go up and down, but maybe a little itty bitty mountains.
Well, it's probably like New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey, so we're like, we have foothills, but then you go up the Adirondacks and you get the 4,000 foot peaks, and in Vermont 4,000 foot peaks.
Sure.
And I even think of West Virginia and North Carolina, they got like 4,000 foot peaks too. So you're saying it's more, I guess,
somewhere probably right in between there and
like 2,000 to 3,000.
Maybe a little lower. We don't have a whole lot of mountains or anything.
But you just have continuous woods and forests though, and pine. And
we have in some location as far as the eye can see, and some locations it's reforested, and some location has never been touched by man yet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's fun up here.
And Abe took me out that one night a couple of years ago.
Not on a date. We just went out squatching. Let's get that clear.
Yeah. It's being recorded, so. But yeah, man, like the spots you showed me, like they were squatchy, like like the greenery and everything like that. I definitely had that Pacific Northwest vibe. I mean, yes, it's it's definitely like a lot flatter out there, but there's definitely a lot of places for them to hide up there,
So we did that in 2019. In that same location, in 2016, when I first started researching that area, I had 2 team members with me. We were camping out there as well. And when I ran into town for supplies and came back, they asked me if I knew Bobo was in the area, because they heard 2 Ohio hauls from 2 different locations.
Really?
Yeah. So I get back there, and I'm like, oh yeah, really? So I'm doing my Ohio haul there as well, and nothing happened. So we start going down this trail here, and we're doing knocks, and lo and behold, we get responses. So we're like, okay, let's proceed. This is in the evening time, June or July, somewhere around there, maybe June. And so we're following this. We're playing cat and mouse. Right? We get to one spot where we're knocking, we get responses farther away, and we're getting it up and it's farther away. It's just like leading us back. Or, it was very, very fun nonetheless. Also, besides the Ohio hauls, about a mile up from that spot, was it 2019 as well? A little while after you, I think it was the same year. I did the Ohio haul, and the response that came back was like we had Ric Flair in the woods. It was going, woo, 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 just going, woo, woo, woo. And
wow.
I thought I had my camera running at that time, but I didn't. I had it in my hands. I'm looking through it like, this is cool. And then when I look at the screen, it's green on standby and not red in record. Oh my gosh! So missed it by that much, and again missed it by that much, and that seems like to be the trend for the past 22 years.
Jeez.
Wow.
So I remember I remember when we were in the studio before we started. You said you actually had you were like 30 seconds away from actually having a genuine sighting. But the time between now, between now and then, would you be able to get into a little more detail about that?
So even before that, oh my gosh, you guys, in 2020, right during the thick of COVID and everything, July 11th, me, my team member Pops, we took a show out with us. I gotta give them props. All gas, no brakes at the time. Now they are called Channel 5 News here on YouTube as well. And that's with Andrew Callahan, the reporter. We're out and we're in this area where one of our sponsors turned us on to this spot at the Reamer Motel. I'll give them much love. Thanks for sponsoring us, the Reamer Motel. Great friends. And all other sponsors for the Minnesota Bigfoot Conference are not all gas, local race, but Bigfoot Gas and Gifts and Woodsman Cafe. I'll make sure we get everybody out there to spread the love. But they told us while they were all riding around that they were at this one spot and they heard whistle, knock, and sneeze or something like that. At any rate, we go walking down there and we're doing vocalizations, we're doing knocks, we're doing everything we can to try to solicit a response to say, hey, we're out here. So as the sun is setting, I take Andrew to a tree and I'm about to teach him how to do a wood knock, basically. And so I got the host, I got the camera guy there, I got the audio guy there. We're all four by this tree so they can get the audio, they can record it, and he has the bat right there. Well, my team member and another guy, his name is Dylan, are on the trail. While I'm doing that, they're like looking ahead, do you see that? And what they're seeing is a creature that steps out of the wood line and does one of these numbers and then goes right back into the woods. Abe! What? They're like this, their eyes are white as saucers. And so I missed that one. And it was just right there within 30 or 40 yards of me. Right there. Didn't hear anything, didn't smell anything. It just stepped out, rocked back and forth, and then back in the woods. We go up, we try to see where it ends. We didn't hear anything in the woods, no crunching, no sticks breaking or anything like that. It was getting dark, and for us to pursue it, it could have been dangerous because if we had gotten tripped up and gotten hurt, sprained an ankle, the last thing we want to do is carry somebody about 3 miles on the woods. But that was there. Then, just a few weeks ago, August 6th, maybe, oh gosh, it's been a month already. I think it was August 6th, right around there. It was on a weekend, it was a Saturday. We go to a spot where my new team member has gotten a report of 3 sightings. Held up 4 fingers for 3 sightings. There was one.
A little slow with my math, sorry.
Yeah, just put one down,
We can edit that.
It was a lake, and a couple comes around to the RV. It was during the day, and they see this creature in the lake, and it runs off to the shore, stays in the lake, off to the shoreline, follows the shoreline down to the woods, and disappears in the woods. My new team member went in there. He said it was up to his chest when he got in there, and the people who were driving said that it was up to this creature's knees or thighs. So there was a height comparison right there. Third one was a bear hunter going to go start to set up his bait station. Okay, and he's on his 4-wheeler. He had one cross from the left to the right in front of him. we went to that location. We did find some impressions. I'll call them impressions because the detail wasn't there. You could if you had pareidolia going on, you could have made out some toes and stuff like that. But being so self-disciplined, I wasn't going to call it just an impression, or a print, Bigfoot footprint just yet. But we did have some impressions that appeared to be of a hominoid around that area. Wow. Two different size ones. One about this size and a smaller one. Again, if they were more detailed, I probably would have casted them and also measured them. But I didn't want to waste my time because the detail just wasn't there. Then at the third spot, now again, this is from two bear hunters, big guys, about 6'4", every bit of 300 pounds, maybe a little bit more, and they were going to go check their bear bait station. And in doing so, they parked their four-wheelers and they started walking on in. And they're walking, and they get to a spot, and they see this dark figure. And they figured out that they were coming up on a bear until it's a bear hunched over from behind like that. Until it stood up and started walking and leaping over trees and logs and stuff like that. They were like, what the heck, in shock. They started tracking it because that's what they do. They were following the broken pieces. Long story short, they lost the trail and they got spooked. Never been so spooked that they told my new team member that they are never, ever going back to this location. Now, these guys, from what he relates to me, are maybe in their 60s or so, and they've been hunting for many years, and they've never seen anything like that. Wow. So we go out there, and we're going out to this spot, and we hear noise off, like we're being paralleled. Okay, so we're taking mental notes. My camera's going, and my new team member says, "Guys, wait here. I'm going to go up and see if this thing, whatever it is, follows me." So we wait here. I go by a tree, and I do some knocks while he's out there. And lo and behold, I get two knocks. After the first knock, I want to say he's on his way back. I waited a period of time. By the time I got done doing second session of knocks, I could hear running coming back towards us. And he's like, "We got to go. We got to get out of here right now. That thing is over there breaking stuff like that." And he was just spooked. He was spooked. So I'm like, okay, so the last thing we're going to do is run out of here. So we walked very slowly to see what would happen. They were hearing movement off to the same side that we were hearing movement when we first came in there. Him and one of my prospects stay behind while I'm walking forward. Again, Abe, what? Over here. I start running back. I got my camera running this time. I got this recorded. You can see it on YouTube. You can see it on our Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team TV Facebook page as well. I get back there. They're like, "It's right there. It's right there." Focusing in. By the time I got there again, about 3 seconds away from them, said, Abe, to where I started running back and getting back to the location. Everything was already done. We go in there. We look around. We investigate. Can't find any type of prints. We did see where the grass was like something big went through there to get to that spot where they seen it at. But that was about it. And on the way back out, nothing really of great significance happened. So I'm always on the heels, and I tell people this: I've been where they've been, I've seen where they've seen, I've walked where they walk, but they're just not there. They're not there. But it's fun. I mean, that just adds more fuel to the fire, and I love this with every breath when I'm on the field. Not anything is going to happen all the time, and that just comes with the territory. I'm sure you guys, as being field researchers yourself for a while, know exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of times it's just boring. You're sitting out there, you're walking around, you're hiking, and you're hoping you're doing what you guys do in hopes of soliciting a response and capturing that audio or having that one sighting that walks right by there, right in front of you. But 90% of the time, 98% of the time,
99.99.
it's just not the case. And a lot of it has to do location. If you're at the right place at the right time, if they're there, season. I think the season has to do a lot with that as well. Actually, I know it does. And how quick you are to that sighting location, and how fast you get a sighting, and how fast you get out to that spot. There's all these things.
Yeah, because you guys are very hands-on, right? Like, you get a report of a sighting, you'll try and get like if you're able to, you'll try and get to that spot immediately.
As soon as possible. Like I said, we got these things called jobs that suck. But usually, that following weekend, or if I have a team member that can do it in between something, yeah, absolutely. We try to get hands-on, boots on the ground as soon as possible.
So correct me if I'm so if memory serves me correct, the majority of reports seem to come from like northeast-ish part of the state. How often do you get reports from like the St. Croix River, St. Croix River area, like that river that separates Minnesota, Vermont, or even like the southern southeast part of the state? I know that's pretty wooded.
So the St. Croix actually separates Minnesota from Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Wisconsin. You said Vermont.
Oh, I thought I said Vermont. Did I?
Yeah.
Oh.
You're way off.
It's okay. It's okay.
Long day.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Celsius, man, it helps. But there's a long history of sightings along the St. Croix River to people who have been on islands on that river and camped out, had stuff thrown at them, or seen one running or walking away. People camped out on the bluffs of the Minnesota side and looking at an island and seeing one on an island as well. Yeah, and I've done a lot of research in the area. However, from my own personal research, I've never really had any activity happen along the St. Croix River. However, I have had stuff happen a few miles west of there, a mile or two, a mile and a half or so, maybe even 3, come to think about it, where as far as being in between 2 of them, with 2 other team members that could verify that. We had one on each side of us. We've heard wood knocking and a rock throwing incident in this location. Also, I've been paralleled and in this general vicinity as well. A lot of that happened back in 2009, 2010. So, the St. Croix River is really, really, and then to be honest with you, that'd probably be about a half-hour drive from me, so maybe about 40 miles north of the Twin Cities, northeast of St. Paul. We still do research there. We're just out there this spring and haven't had anything happen. But so I mean, I'm not going to kind of say it's right here or anything like that because of ongoing research. But no, I mean, we do get out there. I do get out there still. A lot of that stuff happened. The most recent stuff happened was just a few years ago when Fox 21 News wanted to do a scoop on us and what we do. After the news crew left, we had about 6 knocks come out of there, and me and my team member that did that just looked at each other like, really? We had to wait till we were done off, filming and stuff. So that was pretty kind of cool. Other than that, southern Minnesota has some stuff. There was an incident where I was down there. Was that 2020 as well? Where there was a handprint on the very top corner of a window of front door. I was going to go down there and pull those prints and lift those prints and dust those prints and transfer them and get them sent in to a latent fingerprints expert. But by the time I got down there, they were just so deteriorated I was unable to lift them at that time. So there again, it's all about being able to get down there in a timely fashion in hopes of getting all that stuff done and taken care of where you can or one can get any type of preservation of any kind of evidence, So time is always against us here, it seems like,
Sure.
So you for the fingerprints and for the different type of evidence, you have different avenues to go to as far as you have
we have a latent fingerprint examiner that I've been working with for many years. He was actually on Monster Quest, and he was on my radio show when I was doing M.N.B.R.T radio as well. Jimmy Chilcutt. He used to work with the Conroe Police Department, the Conroe, Texas Police Department, and that's who we entrust with our latent fingerprint stuff. Now, my new team member, he was ex-chief of police, so he has a lot more stuff that opened up as well for us. Mm-hmm. So, as far as testing and stuff like that goes,
oh wow,
we got
that's pretty sweet.
And not just that. I mean, Dr. Malcolm said he'd be willing to work with us. He works with everybody, though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so having him on board is great. We have wildlife biologists that our expertise are in bear that may be joining the team as well, which is awesome because there's a lot of misidentification when it comes to a bear or Bigfoot, like the Jacobson photo, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Total bear. Yeah.
I know some people. I know some people who will live and die. Like I know some people who will die on top of that hill, though. That's a Squatch in that picture. But I
was there. I was
you.
Absolutely right there with that person. I mean, I was because that's one thing. Just the way it's bent over, it's really freaky. Mm-hmm. I'll be the first one to say that. And then still, when I'm looking at those photos today, I'm like, that has to be a bear.
And I think too, like right before that weird photo was taken, those trail cameras, I think like moments before, got pictures of like black bears and things like that.
So, cubs. There was cubs in the area. Yeah. Yep. And so what's going on with that, you guys, so from talking with my wildlife biologist friends, they are saying that it's like a teenage bear at an awkward stage. Mm-hmm. And I've even asked them to keep their eye in this bear sanctuary because they have a lot of wild bear that they come in there and stuff like that. I said, hey, you know what? If you guys could kind of be ready on camera and maybe you could take a photo of it in that position, that'd be great. But they did point out a couple of really interesting things as far as the bends and stuff like that of the limbs. And they would bet their bottom dollar that it's a bear. These guys are around bears all the time, from spring to fall. They actually just closed the sanctuary down 2 weeks ago, maybe or so. But yeah, so I mean, in my book, and after them showing me the proof in the pudding, because I was a diehard, hey, Jacobson Rio, that's real. Bigfoot photo. I talked with Meldrum about it. I talked with Cliff about it. So I was like, okay, I just wasn't convinced. And I'm talking with these experts. So now I'm convinced. I admit that. I was wrong. I really was hoping that was a real deal Bigfoot photo. But yeah. So.
But that's not to take. That's not to take anything away from Allegheny National Forest. It's a super squatchy area, like a huge hotspot out in PA. I don't know if I sent it to you, but we actually got some really weird vocalizations out there back in October 2020.
Okay.
Out there in Allegheny National Forest. I definitely love to send them to you. See what you think if I already haven't. But Yeah, not to take away from anything. The other question I had with you. So like here in the East Coast, we have the Appalachian Trail. It runs from Maine to Georgia, and a lot of researchers think that any squatches in the area, they'll use the Appalachian Trail kind of as like a travel route. I know out in Minnesota, you guys have and I think it was one of the spots where we visited. We visited when we did our field research that night. You guys have the North Country Trail out there. Have
Oh,
you?
yeah, we were right off of that.
Mhm.
We were right off
Which,
of
incidentally, when we got our vocals, we were actually like a few miles away from the North Country Trail, which it cuts through that part of PA. But
that. Mhm.
what I was curious was how many reports, if any, have you noticed that come from like that seem to be like concentrated around that trail route, or maybe just like in areas that it happens to cut through. I'm just curious if like I'm curious if like the North Country Trail has those same type of patterns with reports that like the Appalachian Trail has here out east.
Not so much.
Okay.
Just in that Reamer area is from what I can tell you about.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I haven't got nothing in any other spot pertaining to the Northern Trail there.
I can see that because it's really. I mean, when the Appalachian Trail, when it cuts through the East Coast, it's going through a lot of. It's like national park and it's preserves.
Yeah.
Cutting through like urban areas, so it's like the only swath of green that you get for how many thousands of miles. But up by you, like we were talking about before, it's just so wooded that
Oh my
you
gosh.
know, there would be, why would be hanging out there when they have so many other places to hang out that they know they're not going to see people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, and again, it's so heavily wooded that M.N.B.R.T has a hard time keeping that type of stuff even open too. We just don't have the manpower or the resources, basically.
real quick question about that too. I know you said at the beginning that how everyone's so conservative up in Minnesota and they kind of keep to themselves. Obviously, with it being so wooded, is there you have a big timber industry up there, correct?
Yeah, man,
Is there a
they've been
lot of
going.
now with with the Olympic project going on, and the that lumber company isn't been able to cut down any trees over there. Do you think a lot of people keep to themselves too because they don't want their jobs being suspended, and if they cut down if they stop foresting an area, that's going to put some people out of work.
Right. Here's the thing. Me and one of my team members, we went into an area where they were doing current logging and stuff like that. We've talked with logger, guy driving a truck basically, and told him who we are, what we're doing, and if we ever see anything strange, the team member asked him, "Oh yeah, they're out there, they're around,"
Really?
and it's really hush hush, which I think we all know why it's hush hush, and they don't say it. It's a multi-million-dollar industry. And if something like this were to prove in existence, what would happen? Laws would be passed, protection would be passed, and they would know the logging industry would lose a lot of money.
Money, yeah.
And that's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
They don't like us. They respect everything that we do. The guy thought we were cool and everything like that because we're looking into this. But on the other hand, on the other side of the coin, his bosses, his bosses, 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 bosses. I can see us butting heads somewhere down the road. And that's going to be fun.
Sure. I mean, it happened in Washington State a couple of years ago. There was like this endangered owl. They set a bunch of territory aside, and pretty much like logging was a huge thing out there. It pretty much just like killed the local economy out there. I think it was on Finding Bigfoot too, actually, where I remember seeing this. There was like an episode in Michigan they were talking about loggers, and one of them that someone that they interviewed said they had a policy, like a Sasquatch policy, like if you think you see something, to notify your supervisor immediately about it. So definitely, so it definitely gives that whole thing credence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was the ground owl that you may have been referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, And that's one of the things that, again, as one of our mission statements is that we want to prove or help prove or put what we've gathered evidence into a collective, or hopefully along with other people or groups and organizations, we could have all this data and put it in front of somebody's face and say, hey, you can't deny this. There's something out there.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's not going to happen staying at home or staying, you have to get out there in the woods. I'm out in the woods, I'm out in the woods, I'm out in the woods, I'm out in the woods. And I preach this, and I preach this, and I preach this. And I mean, that's what we need. We just need more people. And it takes sacrifice. I mean, I know it takes sacrifice from family, from kids, from loved ones to be able to do that. And, I'm fortunate enough where I'm in a position in my life where I can do that. So, I mean, and when I'm out there, when I'm not foraging or mushroom hunting, I just came across a possible formation the other day too, while mushroom hunting. So, and that one was pretty close to the St. Croix River.
What do you think? What do you think the formation represents?
Let me pull up this picture, you guys. Oh my gosh.
Mushroom hunting, huh?
Yeah, I do mushroom hunting. So
okay,
there is that formation, possible formation. Just found that on the 19th. Of course, when I'm walking around, I'm taking different photos from different areas, different angles. There's another one, and there's another one that's out there.
So these are all different ones.
Yeah, this is the same formation, just walking around there, getting different angles and different shots of it. There was just one. What it means, I have no idea. But
was there a lot of mushrooms? Was there a lot of mushrooms around where that area was?
I did find some mushrooms, and so that's one thing I've been keeping in mind since I've been doing foraging and mushroom hunting. Is there a correlation with mushrooms and Bigfoot,
or just food in general, or like berries and
among other things?
Absolutely. Berries, mushrooms is a food source. Can they eat different things that we eat? Do they have a dietary intakes as being a hominid very close to us and a bear? Who knows what their digestive system is like? Is it more similar to us? Is it like bear? Is it a mixture? Can they eat things that we can't? Which I think they probably could, seeing that they have, I wouldn't say adapt, we've kind of adapted to eating crap, while they're more on the natural side, on the probably healthier side of stuff too. So I guess a question is that could we once eat what they eat?
I can see that because we're both bipedal, so we have gravity working for us. Although my stuff takes its time getting out of me, but if you're walking on all fours, I'm sure it's a different digestive system and it needs help getting through the system. But I'm sure if it eats the same stuff as roughage, protein, it'll keep the system going, right? So probably pretty similar to us.
So what's the story behind Reamer, Minnesota? I think I think I remember asking you when we've been out in the field that night, but I don't think we were ever able to actually get to it, how to get that Bigfoot reputation.
So back in 2015, Reamer declared itself the home of Bigfoot here in Minnesota.
Right.
And why is because the founder of Reamer, when they were first out in that area, came across some large prints and stuff like that. And a member of the Chamber of Commerce and a business owner out there decided to kind of go with that and run with that in hopes of bringing more tourism and money, I guess you could say, through the small town with a population of 370 people. Oh, wow. So it is a small town. And then that's when the idea came out of having the Bigfoot Barbecue Festival or the Bigfoot Days. And that's where a small town of 370 turns into a town of a couple thousand. So I like first talked about was like, okay, now really, what is the truth behind this? Lo and behold, doing field research in that town and hearing things happen, I can say without a doubt in my mind, and getting to know a lot of the locals that live there, business owners that come there and have had sightings that come up to us. And Reamer is another good platform to get rid of that Bigfoot stigma that is associated with Bigfoot as being ridiculed and stuff like that. It's another great platform, a safe haven, is during the Bigfoot Barbecue Festival or Bigfoot Days out there to come talk about, because we do hold a town hall meeting with other researchers and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, so without a question of doubt, from having my own experiences hearing the knocks and stuff like that, and woo, Ric Flair being in the woods, you know, I can say without a question about it that they're still around there. It's just about where, and I'm fortunate enough to know exactly where.
What about if memory serves me correct? I think Minnesota has 2 national forests. There's one way up in the northeast, and then I think there's Chippewa National Forest, which
We have the Superior and the Chippewa.
yeah. I done some. I actually did a solo backpacking trip during my brief stint up in Brainerd and Chippewa. Really gorgeous. Really gorgeous area. Have you ever? How many reports have you had like coming out of that specific? Either those national forests.
There's probably about a handful out of each one,
Oh,
if not more. If not more, yeah. And I know there's more out there. I know people are having things happen to them. The Superior National Forest, what was it, 2020, out by Ely, Minnesota, about 5 miles west of town, there was a sighting at 11 o'clock in the morning along the road of this one just walking in the ditch along the forest. In the Chippewa, there has, well, we, so Reamer is in the Chippewa area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of stuff in the Chippewa area. Well, I guess with that being said, more than a handful from what's been relayed to me.
Have you done any research with the Native Americans up there? Obviously, with Chippewa and, you know.
So one of my team members is Native, and we have gone on the res. And when was this? 2018, late July of 2018. One of my ex-team members did the Ohio Haul, and then we had coyotes going off to the east, and then to the east and to the west. We were in between 2 of them again.
Wow.
So we had 2 Ohio Hauls for 2 different locations. I had a parabolic mic. Talk about equipment malfunction. I had a parabolic mic hooked up to my camera and a splitter, so I can also listen through the parabolic and record with the camera through the audio-visual jack of the camera. However, the splitter was not working correctly and did not pick up the audio that was transmitting through the parabolic into the camera. It was, I take it to Doug Hightech. I said, Doug, is there anything you can do? Can you clean this up? Can you amplify this or anything like that? He goes, I'd have to go do this. So, I mean, it might be coming on Sasquatch Legend Meets Science too. I don't know. It happened here in Minnesota. We are working with Doug with Sasquatch Legend Meets Science too. We're one of the teams to be fortunate enough to do so. So we're totally stoked about that. But we'll see. I mean, but it was, he goes, I hear something in the background. I mean, if you're looking for my seal of approval, that's a authentic Sasquatch vocalization, you have it. Well, I know that, Doug, but, but can you do anything? I don't know right now.
Now, just to follow up with that, with your team member being a Native American, do you have access to like elders or any of the folklore in the area?
No, well, no, not so much. We go out with him on the runs when he has time. He is a working guy. He's a family man, and it's a hard time for him to kind of get away. So,
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but a valuable asset. He's been on the team for many years now.
Oh, very cool.
I think maybe 10. Huh.
So being that
all of our members are very valuable.
we're babies compared to you guys. We're only
Yeah.
what 2, 3 years old.
Yeah, 2020 we got things started. So basically, speaking of, by the way, so like being that you've been researching these areas for over 20 years now, what types of patterns, just in terms of like activity or reports, have you noticed that kind of occur maybe on like every X amount of years or certain times of years? Like how, like what kind of stuff occurs there that is unique
fall,
to
spring and
that
fall,
area? Spring and fall.
spring and fall. Yep, absolutely. Summertime too, but I would say more so in the spring and the fall. Summertime, I mean, we're talking about a creature that who knows? I mean, we can only speculate on his caloric needs and caloric burn and what it needs to survive and how much it will burn if it were to go on a hunt or stuff like that. But definitely, I would say when things start greening up again, snow's melting, those fresh shoots of greenness and whatever plant that it eats, all the way up to hunting season where the leaves are falling off the tree. I have noticed around before or after the first snowfalls where things kind of just are like a light switch and go pew and just kind of die off.
Do you
So
think they hibernate?
No,
You
I don't think
so?
they hibernate. No,
Because it gets really cold when you have like -40 up by you, right? Like
we've oh my gosh. So just a couple of years ago, one of the locations here in Minnesota was actually colder than Mars. It was so negative. We have gotten to -60 below degrees.
why would you want to be outside in that? I just don't know. That's just crazy.
2019 when we had that crazy cold front in the Twin Cities. You remember that, Abe? It was like -20, -30.
That wasn't too bad.
That's
For
not
Yeah, that wasn't too bad.
my buddy went to the playoff game a couple years ago, and he went, because you can walk. He walks from his hotel, and I guess he didn't have to go outside at all. Just walk through all the skywalks,
Yeah.
right to the mall, to the stadium. And he was like, I wore shorts and a t-shirt to the game. I'm like, God bless you, man. There's no way no way I'm going outside in that weather.
Yeah, I don't see. The thing is, when it gets that cold, or when it gets really, really cold, from trial and error and learning, your batteries get the life sucked right out of you. Yeah, equipment malfunction is a problem. If I do go out, I'm putting a couple layers on, obviously, right? And I'm putting my vital piece of equipment right next to my body so it'll stay somewhat warm. That's going to be my baby, my Sony Handycam Night Vision H4K camera. Or the thermal imager. And those things are staying tucked close to me at all times. Other than that, yeah, batteries, you could have fresh batteries and the cold will suck the life right out of them. Things will get frozen up, not work, not shut off, stay on, not shut off. Well, yeah, it's just so many things can go on. But, there has been occasions where in the prints, wintertime it's really hard. So for those who are listening, we get a lot of people saying, "Oh, are these Bigfoot tracks in the snow? Are these Bigfoot tracks in the snow?" Well, majority of the time they're not. And what people will do is take a picture of a trackway when in the snow, and it's really hard to differentiate unless you're right over the track itself. So, for instance, let me grab a footprint real quick.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So if you're to take a picture from back here is kind of hard.
Mm-hmm.
To get more of a detail in a footprint in the snow, be right over the picture so we can see it like head on, face on like this, and put something, a scale item into it, and try to get as close as possible. So details such as toes, if there are any toes, will pop out as well. Kind of go from an angle. Different angles can bring out different features as well. Okay. So the biggest mistake is people just take a picture of a hole in the ground and not being right over it. And it's really hard to differentiate that. A lot of animals, when we get that deep snow here, they will hop and leap to gain, and that's what it is. The majority of the time, it's just an animal hopping and leaping. But yeah, but you look how big that is. So what? I mean, we have bobcats here in Minnesota that are about that size of some people say, oh, a big footprint. There's rabbits, snowshoe rabbits, small hair rabbits and stuff like that. There's foxes that come out, you know. But to answer your question, I'm getting way off track here. No, I don't think they do hibernate. I think what goes on is that they may go subterranean. Again, this is speculation. It would only make sense to us, but that could also not be it in any way, shape, or form.
Do they have cave systems up there?
I was just going to say cave systems as well. You know, who knows? Maybe there's a lake that has an underground entrance that goes into a cavern somewhere. We have no idea.
Well, you have a salt industry up there too, right? Don't you have salt mines and stuff?
Do we? I know we got a lot of iron mines up in
Iron
iron.
okay.
Oh yeah, the Iron Country up there. I think.
The iron ore. The iron ore. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. Do they build huts? Do they build like the Ohio grassman alleged nest and stuff like that? Do they put things together where with different types layers of vegetation for insulation against the cold? There's just, I mean, I haven't come across one. I do a lot of hiking. I haven't come across anything like that. That would be really cool, though. Really cool. But no, I don't think they do hibernate. I mean, we're talking about a hominid here.
Yeah.
We're you know, has any hominid been able to hibernate? Maybe they can do stuff. I mean, again, here comes that far-fetched left field type. Can they do stuff that we can't do? Do they have abilities that we don't have, abilities that we've lost over time of evolution or adapting, becoming man, modern man? That we that's just way. Keep that in mind, because right now people already look at us like we're a bunch of nut jobs because we're all looking for Bigfoot that doesn't exist. If we add something like that to the equation, then I think it's an injustice. A lot more people are just going to turn up their noses and just forget about it, be closed-minded instead of open-minded. What we want to do is open people's minds, guys, ladies and gentlemen. We want to open people's minds. We want to draw in their fascination. We got to have that enthusiasm, that passion. Let them see that passion, that enthusiasm that we are having when we're out in the field. That love that we all have shared as a field researcher, that we know that they're out there. There's just too much data and things happening to deny that. But when we start throwing, I guess you could say, the metaphysical part or the woo factor into that, I think that just closes off a lot of people's minds when we want to do just the opposite thing and have them.
So you're definitely more of a blood camp, I take, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we've had people on the show before who kind of dabble with the whole woo factor thing or paranormal thing.
Paranormal aspect.
Yeah. In my opinion, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, I just think it's just instances of wishful thinking. People kind of use that as like a fallback to fill in details that they can't readily explain, with like tangible pragmatic explanation or opinion. That's just the way I look at it.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they just turned invisible out through the portal.
I can't.
You know what? I say that in making fun, but I've had that. I can't say I witnessed it. I've had people say I've had a guy out of Ohio say he's seen a Bigfoot and it turned invisible, and then you can see where he's walking because the grass was parted. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
Oh, the cloaking.
Yeah.
Like some predator
I
shit.
do think they have translucent fur. I mean, I could see that. Like kind of like the polar bears.
Well, then again, I mean, what are we dealing with? Are we dealing with a creature that was once had his own species? Are we dealing with a hybrid that's mated? I decline this call. That mated with humans to get where it's at right now because its lineage was dying off. There's just so much. I mean, there's Native American reports of Native American women being kidnapped, missing for a while, and coming back with a baby, and them telling stories of the hairy man or the Sabe, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Albert Osterman. Why was he kidnapped?
Was that the guy who was kidnapped? Who was kidnapped by the family for a couple of days in the
Yeah, in a
sleeping
sleeping
bag?
bag.
Yeah,
In a
British
sleeping
Columbia,
bag.
1924, Toba Inlet.
Mhm.
Got away from feeding the big male snuff, chewing tobacco.
Hey, he started sneezing, right?
Sneezing, coughing, couldn't handle it, was burning his throat.
Yeah.
Get irritated. I wouldn't want to be around an irritated one, I tell you.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, forget
Mm-mm.
that.
Oh,
Especially if the wife's there nagging him too. Jeez.
why did you bring him home? God, he's going to be mating with our daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah.
Who knows? Who knows,
So
right?
that's how they do it.
Oh, and speaking of nagging, let's just open up another avenue of the talk for you guys. Speech. You guys
Okay.
familiar with the Ron Moorhead, the Bigfoot Talk series?
Absolutely.
Yep.
He's been on our show a couple of times.
Yep.
Ron, great friend. He was one of the first speakers here at the Minnesota Bigfoot Conference. We've had the first one for years and years and years. And yeah, he's male and female talking, and the female is going off on the male. Yeah, they even they nag. Oh my God!
He probably left the seat up. Right? That's probably what happened.
Yeah, you got to put that log back down when you're done, honey.
That's why we can't find any of their poop.
It's under a log. Yeah.
I remember one story you told me when we'd linked up was we were by like a bridge or something like that, and we had the parabolic, and you told me that you had one woman you were with claims she heard like samurai chatter or something.
Yeah.
Something
So
of that sort.
Yep. This was like in 2016 or 17.
Mm-hmm.
We took 2 families of 4 out for the Bigfoot Barbecue Festival, Bigfoot Festival, on a night hike. And at that bridge, we had parabolics that we were letting the people use and stuff like this. This one woman, 19 years old, she zoned in on this sound, and she heard what sounded like chatter going back and forth. She said, and I got this documented too. It's on our Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team TV page here on Facebook. And she goes, it's something I have never heard before. And she was just so awestruck and moved that she was getting teary-eyed from hearing this, from witnessing this. And also in this location that same night, we were getting knocks and stuff too. So yeah, just on that very, very bridge, that's where she heard it from. So yeah, it was very cool, very, very cool, very moving to hear that.
So what's going on? What's going on this year at the Minnesota Bigfoot Conference? I know that's I think that's coming up in a couple of weeks. I think this is the 3rd or 4th one you've been hosting. Fill us in, man.
Wow. So besides helping prove that this creature being is real, I was sitting back. I was like thinking, what else can we do? What more can people do? What more can I do besides just getting out of the woods and doing my part of that? Education, documentaries and education, local education, I thought would be, hey, a great idea. What other better way? I mean, from doing this for over 22 years now and networking with a bunch of different people, making a bunch of different friends, such as you, Mike, and now you, buddy. I know a lot of people. A lot of them have been on documentaries and TV shows and things like that. So we were just talking about, Ron Moorhead. I thought it'd be a great idea in getting the word out, at least in the state of Minnesota, that hey, this creature is not just in the Pacific Northwest or the Florida skunk ape. We have our own version, the Minnesota Iceman as well. So
classic.
that one was really kind of cool. I mean, basically how that came about is that a hunter shot one. It was on display here in Minnesota. It frozen encased in a block of ice, and it was around at the Minnesota state fair at one time, and then it went into hiding, and then came back out as a fake one. My dad's seen it. My team member has seen the real one. And when it came back out, it just did not look in any way, shape, or form like the original one. So
the original like decayed too much or something like that, right? Like
from my readings, you could start to smell the death coming out of the ice. Yeah. So, and then with the newer one, that smell was absent. Yeah. So you got that. But I thought it'd be cool to get that education out there, that knowledge out there, that they're here in Minnesota, and they're thriving and they're active, and they're still active, and they're loud and strong. So that's brainstorming. I came like, why not? I've been to conferences out west, down south, out east. Why not here in Minnesota? So I put together the Minnesota Bigfoot Conference, and it happened in 2000 when we had our very first conference. Not only was it our very first conference, but it was our 20-year anniversary of being a team. So we had birthday cake, we had great speakers, we had a great time. It was during the COVID. Last year was during COVID as well. And by the grace of God, it was a great success, and we're going to do it again this year as well. Wow. This year, coming back, a great friend of mine, again, I've known for many years. Cliff is coming back from Animal Plants, from Bigfoot, joining us, our very first female speaker, Dr. Maria Mayer from Travel Channel's Expedition Bigfoot is coming.
Oh, yeah.
And for those who are paying attention to that show, I got goosebumps. We're gonna hopefully be getting some of those answers to the questions like Bigfoot DNA, Kentucky and out west. What's going on with the eDNA, this, that, and the other thing. Yeah. Hopefully we can put more light shed on that subject. You guys know him. He's a fellow Minnesotan, currently resides in San Antonio, Texas. Ken Gerhardt.
Ken Gerhardt, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I know Ken Gerhardt pretty well. Yeah.
Yep. He's coming up. He's going to be joining us.
He's also very smart. Wow.
My gosh, I've known him I first met him at the OBC, maybe 2012 or something like that. Ohio Bigfoot Conference, by the way. OBC.
Yep. Last year. That's good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so ever since I started doing the M.B.C, my funds are all tied up in the M.B.C where I don't travel to the OBC. I've been going to the OBC since 2009, 2019, for 10 years straight. And then coming back is going to be Russell Ford, also from Travel Channel's Expedition.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we got a great lineup of friends, of speakers. It's going to be a great event. I mean, for people who are around Minnesota, the Dakotas, Iowa, Wisconsin, Nebraska, you guys come on up. Missouri, come check us out. It's going to be a great family fun event. We're going to be having raffles, Bigfoot calling contests, things of that nature, just to kind of help get that education out here in the state of Minnesota. That there's Bigfoots in Minnesota too.
And you picked a great lineup for the education part of it, because being to the conferences I've been, I've heard Cliff speak and Ken and Dr. Meyer. I mean, they're very, very intelligent. They have a lot to say, and you just get so enthralled with their presentation that because you are learning so much.
Absolutely.
And absolutely. That's a great lineup though. And
thank you.
Too bad it's out in Minnesota, because that probably would have come out. I do.
Well, it might be a little too cold for you.
No. I tried to go to one last year with the OBC. This year I went to Tennessee. So maybe next year I get out to Minnesota.
Yeah, we saw Dr. Mayer speak at in Gatlinburg. This past July. Me and Charlie road trip down there. It was a fun time.
Like we were talking about before, with jobs and with family and stuff like that, it's just tough to, vacation time. You got, because coming from New Jersey, going out there, I like to drive. So, I usually give myself 2 or 3 days to get out there. I drove Mike down to Tennessee. He slept all the way. Great co-pilot.
I believe it. No, I'm just kidding.
I was a very low maintenance passenger though.
So for me to get to Salt Fork State Park, it was about anywhere from 10 to 12 hours.
Wow. Yeah, so that'd probably be like an 18-hour trip for me to get to where you're at then. So,
Okay.
well, definitely worth it though. I mean, sounds like you got, I'm sure next year's gonna be just as good as this year. So,
Yeah, I'm kind of kicking around ideas as far as speakers go for next year.
nice. No, that's awesome.
Yeah,
It's,
gotta stay ahead of the game, basically.
The one thing that really traumatized me though about squatching in Minnesota during the summer was you got like the second I remember the second we got to the campsite, second I stepped outside, just got swarmed by those bugs. Like that really traumatized me. How do you?
was it
I
mosquitoes?
no, just like these bugs. They're like kamikazing me, swarming
Really?
around. Like,
So
how do you deal with that?
He's talking about our state bird, a lot of states birds, the mosquito. Just kidding. Those and the deer flies that are out there. And there I was out there squashing in a tank top, right? So
Yeah.
it's called Deep Woods Off, and I swear up and down by it.
I'm one of those guys that has like the hat with the net on it.
Oh man, I hate those things. I hate them. It's just like they'll come right that close, and you hear they're buzzing around the flying. It's like, oh my gosh. So I'd rather just spray down and keep them off me and reapplying when needed.
Nice.
It also helps with the tan too.
Nice.
Yeah.
A lot of sun up there in Minnesota, huh?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I was gonna say he lives out in Minnesota. He lives out in friggin' Minnesota. He's tanner than the two of us, Charlie. What's up with that? You know?
Well, like I said, I'm out in the woods a lot, so you gotta be outside, you guys.
Facts. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't get tan watching Netflix.
I remember though, like I was, like I always like to wear like cargo pants now or tactical pants whenever I go out in the woods. I was smart and I forgot my pants. So I remember I did the whole thing in shorts that whole outing in shorts, and I had my beanie that I literally just like pulled down over my ears just so those friggin' bugs wouldn't that's one thing that that's one thing that really stuck with me about that trip. You showed me that really interesting structure.
Yeah.
So
so right along there, that's where I had right in that area is where we had the woo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was wow. Oh my gosh.
So with all the lakes up there, do you have any other like sea or aquatic cryptids up there?
Yeah, we do actually. Oh my gosh, what is it? The lake monster down in Lake City, Minnesota. I can't, but we do have a lake monster. Oh dang, I can't think of its name right off the bat.
I think I know what you mean. Talking about. It's like one of those lakes. I think like the Mississippi River. Like it's like attached to the Mississippi River or something like that.
Let's see.
It's
Lake Minnesota. Not Lake Minnesota. Lake City, Minnesota. Lake monster. Peppy. That's what it was. Peppy the lake monster. Lake Pepin. That's it. Lake Pepin in southern Minnesota has a lake monster called Peppy. Peppie.
But you're strictly big, so you don't investigate other cryptids. You just do strictly Bigfoot, right?
Yeah, I kind of stay away from werewolves and lake monsters and dinosaurs and stuff like that. So.
Like you have Dogman up in Minnesota too, right?
Werewolf, Dogman, yeah, kind of same difference.
No, that's Wendigo country up there, isn't it?
Well, that's a whole different thing. That's a whole other game too. As far as possible shapeshifters and all that stuff. Yeah.
That's a
No, I mean,
yeah.
I'm a Bigfoot kind of a guy. I think I have a fighting chance, maybe.
And since you spent so much time in the woods with your investigations, is there any evidence up there of big cats, like mountain lions and?
Oh yeah, we got mountain lions. Absolutely, we got mountain lions.
Yeah,
absolutely, and they're breeding. Their population is going up.
And that's documented.
That's good to hear.
Minnesota accepts that you have mountain lions and it's documented and everything like that.
You know, I don't know if they have yet or not. I know it's been thrown in their face a few times. You know, we were where we took all gas and no brakes off in 2021. There was a mountain lion track on that trail.
Oh wow.
Really?
So,
Yeah, because like they're showing up on trail cameras in Michigan, Wisconsin, you know. So if they're traveling from west to east, like they have to pass through. You know, northern Minnesota.
No, southern Minnesota too. If you're going right.
if they're in northern Minnesota, I don't know why they would not be in southern Minnesota. I mean, there's food sources all around Minnesota.
Yeah.
We got deer throughout the whole state. So
Yeah.
I think deer would probably be the predominant food source for Bigfoot or, you know, predators like wolves for sure and big cats too.
Have you done much research in I know definitely another really underrated states, you know, it's right below Minnesota's Iowa.
Yeah. I have done research in Iowa. Yes. And boy, I started researching down in Iowa in 2009. Family, it was on a small farm. Family became great friends. And when we were first down there in 2009, me and my team member, also little brother Tick, call him Tick, we were heading down to a creek where it meets the Des Moines River. And on that point right there, I brought one of my daughter's little fake dolls, a Discman, 2 portable speakers, and a baby car carrier type of ordeal. And I had sounds of baby crying playing on a Discman. Well, we went back down to check the batteries and see if it was still broadcasting the baby crying sounds. On our way down there, in between the woods, there was the woods and the cornfield, go figure. we heard, woo! And it was followed by one single wood knock. We were like, wow. Went in the woods a little ways. It was getting dark again. See if we could see anything. It was one of those, things where if we were going in the woods, it could have been more dangerous, more harm could have came out. First time at this property, didn't know the property or anything like that. Also, that evening or during our stay down there, on their back deck, they had black walnut trees. And at night, my brother was out there and he could hear something stepping on black walnuts as it was walking. So that spooked him inside. He goes, I hear something walking on black walnuts. Well, they're probably out there. She called it the playground because she believed that they had their younger ones that they would keep out there where they went out on hunts and stuff like that. So, yeah. Also, one occasion, couple occasions. Oh my gosh! So I think that they understand English, and I say that because I was on the back of her deck. It was nighttime, and she said she could feel them because she'd get a chill or goosebumps on that side of the body. Well, lo and behold, this was happening to one side of the body. And it says, if you're out there, I'm speaking to the woods. It says, if you're out there and you understand me, can you please show us some kind of sign? Can you give me 2 wood knocks? I want to swear right now, but for real, I got 2 wood knocks coming out of the woods. I'm like, oh my gosh, hair on my body started standing up, and goosebumps all over. And I was like, oh my goodness, seriously? A different occasion, they had a rental property down, and a woman that stayed there, she had a husky, and her dog was barking, and then it stopped. She went to go check on the dog, and she seen this big creature with the dog under his arm walking back into the woods.
Oh, she lost
the dog was chained, so they had to take this dog off the chain, and that was that. However, when we went down there, it was just her and I sitting on the front stoop with steps, and she gets this chill on her body, and there was some fires going on, and she goes, "Are you hurt?" She talked to him regularly. She goes, "Are you hurt? Do you need medicine or anything like that?" And you guys, I swear, I heard a chest. Oh my gosh! And there was another. I heard a chest pound on that occasion, and then me and her granddaughter were out in the field and walking around. We're looking for any kind of signs and stuff like this along the creek and stuff like that. And I hear something. And we're just sitting down. We're listening. We're listening. I hear what sounded like a gorilla beating his chest out in the woods too.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I also found a couple of hominid-looking footprints, and yeah. So I can definitely say that they were down in there, in that part of Iowa.
Yeah, because I've driven through Iowa a couple of times before, and like the majority of the state is flatland, cornfields, flatland cornfields, farms.
Yeah.
Not really a lot of greenery, but you get to like eastern Iowa, it's very woodsy, very swampy. There's even a couple like hilly sections there.
Mhm.
You have some like these major organizations that hold expeditions. A lot of the times, expeditions in Iowa, they max out at people. That's how they max out sometimes. That's
Yeah.
that's how popular and active they are out there.
Yep. Can you believe that in Iowa?
Yeah,
And you
well,
thought Minnesota was underrated, and here we are in Iowa where there's
yeah.
corn. So I mean, they have that food source, corn. We got a lot of corn here in Minnesota too,
Mhm.
corn and soybeans. So
And the thing
Yeah, but
about the farm,
that's probably like a conservative state too. That everyone keeps to themselves
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But then that's a little guilty pleasure when they go, on these Bigfoot hunts.
Yep.
and
Yep.
the thing about like these farmland areas, a lot of people say, oh well, squatches need woods, heavy cover, and things like that. Yeah, that's probably the case, but a lot of these farmlands, yes, like it's a lot of like flat land, but it's very rural, and a lot of these places, you probably have like maybe one maybe two people per square mile. So yes,
Mm.
like squatches, supposedly, if they're real, they like to hide, remain hidden. But a lot of these farmland areas, there's really no one to hide from. And to your point, they have the food sources there. There's always like all these waterways going through there that they in theory could probably use to travel
Yeah.
in and out. So I like even like I think Nebraska too
Yeah.
has a couple of areas supposedly.
Yep, they do. And let's think about that real quick. I mean, with that tall corn,
Yeah, it's like 8 feet tall.
when I was down there, there was a guy who had a sighting of a black one that was in the cornfield, and he was standing up on the fence. If he would have never had that higher point of view, he would have never seen that Sasquatch in the corn.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. But yeah, wow.
Definitely.
Don't they have their own conference too in Nebraska? If
Yes.
correct.
Yes, there is. Yep.
Wow.
Yep, there is.
That's gotta be an all-star lineup for me to go to Nebraska. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I've traveled through there, and I had a hard time staying awake.
Actually, I drove cross country with my buddy, man. It's like, oh, just tie a rope to the
No,
steering
but
wheel.
I mean, like some of these Midwestern states, like Nebraska, Kansas. Like I know Finding Bigfoot was out. They did an episode out in Kansas. I don't know if they did anything out in Nebraska, but supposedly any alleged sightings that occur, they occur along the waterways. Like the majority of these states are flat farmland. We just covered that, but these waterways, a lot of them are like pretty thickly wooded. They have some pretty swampy, marshy areas.
Right.
So,
Yeah, not to cut you off or anything,
mm,
but I think that's absolutely the truth. I mean, this creature needs water. Now, we were talking about kind of their stomachs handle different things that we can't, like stagnant water, still water, and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, that would be kind of chance. I mean, flowing water is good.
Yeah, definitely flowing. I don't think they would do the stagnant water. I don't think.
Right.
Yeah, but well, Mike, to your point though, I mean, look at South Jersey, Pine Barrens. There's no mountains there, and there's
yeah.
a lot of water, and there's sightings down there. So just times
However,
that by.
don't they got pine bogs? A lot of pine bogs around the Pine Barrens too, or cranberry bogs. I mean,
We have blueberries down there too.
yeah.
But it's like just times that area by 15, 20. You know what I mean? When you go out Midwest, I mean it's a decent sized area, but it's not Midwest or Western United States area,
Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
And you're right. I think around a water source and some woods would be a key factor to look around. I mean, here we got 10,000, over 10,000 lakes, more shoreline than the West Coast, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. And then we were talking prior to the show starting that there's a lot of areas that haven't even been touched by man yet, or areas that haven't been touched by man in a long, long, long time, generations and generations too. So, and logging industry, I mean, yeah, they do replant and stuff like that. That's Minnesota is just such a fun place to go, especially if you're right on the heels of a sighting and you're there in a few days. It could be a really, really interesting place to be at.
Especially
Absolutely.
especially the boundary waters too. Literally, the majority of that air, like the majority of like the areas in the boundary waters. Correct me if I'm wrong, Abe. It's pretty much only accessible by canoe.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like that huge network of lakes and ponds and things like that, and like especially in the cold months. You know, how often are people getting out there?
Well, it's snowmobiles. I'm sure with the frozen lakes, you probably there's a lot of get some
Yeah,
sightings.
and yep, and you're right. That's when the snowmobiles come into play and all that stuff.
So you think there'd be more sightings out there because there's a lot of people snowmobiling.
Well, that's the other side of the coin, though. I mean, the snowmobiles are loud. Yeah, four wheelers, side by sides are all loud. I know of one or two instances of a sighting on a snowmobile. Otherwise, there's a few handfuls of people who have seen them on side by sides or four wheelers or ATVs and stuff like that. But it does happen. We can't say it doesn't happen. Sometimes they get caught. I mean,
yeah.
Here's the thing: the majority of the sightings happen during the day, not night.
I think it's most of the juveniles too. Personally, in my opinion, I think it's the younger ones that get caught with their pants down. They're like, oh, they're not savvy yet, and they're kind of curious to these noisy things. What is this noisy thing coming at me?
It makes sense, but then again, even as the adults, we don't have any indication of how their mental capability is. I mean, do the adults have it's said to be like a mindset of a 12-year-old human? I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's just so much questions that we have want answered. It's just who knows. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you're right because kids do make mistakes. Well, also on the other side of the coin, is there an adult out there, a day watcher is what they're called, watching and it's getting too close so it stays still and hopes that it gets seen and it gets seen?
Like I said, yeah. Well, one of the witnesses that Mike and I researched up in New Jersey, she was under the impression that there's a family unit and there is kind of like the alpha kind of stays up during the day to kind of protect where they are hanging out, and then once there's kind of like a night shift, then once the nighttime comes in, they all go out and forage and stuff like that. But there is definitely someone on guard or something on guard during the day. Yeah. Especially if people get close, or anything gets close to there.
I know that firsthand. I mean, when I got chased by one in Ohio, I mean, I think it was a female that got me away from a smaller one.
So, and to your point too about whether or not they, to your point too about them standing still and stuff like that. Like, let's be real. When we're in the woods, especially when we're moving, 90% of the time we're looking in one or two areas. We're either looking down at our feet to make sure we don't trip over nothing, or we're just looking straight ahead. We're not really looking. We're not really doing like 360-degree surveys of the area.
Right.
Mike looked at three areas because he's looking at me falling on the ground too. He'll look up, look down, and he'll look back like, he's on the ground again.
Down, up, and behind me, yeah.
Only if we can maneuver like a Bigfoot, man. That'd be awesome, right? Cover a lot of terrain real fast, go about 40 miles in between trees.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was at work yesterday. Sometimes me and my coworkers will go through, we'll do like a loop. There's like the cemetery next to our office, like a wooded area. And I was walking by it. I noticed I noticed a deer standing like in the tree line, and it was standing perfectly still. It blended in so like naturally with its surroundings. And literally, the only reason why I noticed it was because I was on like a paved path walking, so I wasn't looking down at my feet or directly ahead of me or anything. I was actually able to like wander around. I just noticed it out of the corner of my eye. So, like possible Bigfoot aside, like it just makes me think like how many big creatures like that, deer, bear, things like that, have we just just like as like outdoor recreationalists come like this close to walking past without even noticing.
Well, with a deer or a bear or any other kind of creature, I would say you're going to see movement. You're going to notice movement. Whereas to a Bigfoot, is that something that doesn't want to be seen? It has a higher intelligence than a deer or a bear.
That's true.
Or a wolf or anything like that. I mean, they've been documented. One of my team members in West Virginia, when she had her sighting, she said this thing hugged the tree so it wouldn't be seen. So I mean, this thing, and with them being more in tune, having probably way better eyesight, and knowing what to look for in the woods when hunting or just survival, or when we're in there, not meshing in with nature. I mean, look at us. Some of us try to wear camouflage and hope they don't see it, right? But I don't think camouflage helps in any way, shape, or form when it comes to the Sasquatch.
Yeah, I think so.
Especially if something whose hair or fur can possibly match him. So, and they have to see each other when that happens. Or I don't think that's why when you see me, I'm just going to wear regular clothes. You see me in a shirt and a hat, tank top, and jeans, stuff like that.
The iconic M.N.B.R.T tank top.
Iconic. Well, yeah. Thanks.
Gun show. You gotta have the gun show. No, but to that point, I mean, I told the story before, but I remember in my town, I was leaving church, and we saw this. My dad and I saw this like 400, like a big male bear. He had to be like 400 pounds. Walked across Main Street through the parking lot of the church, and he walked into the brush. And granted, it was only like maybe an acre worth of brush. There wasn't high trees or anything. It was just really thick brush. And this thing walked in there, and it was sucked up into the brush within like seconds. And you could see, and this thing was a massive bear. You know what I mean? So I think you got to take into effect that besides the massive trees, but there's a lot of growth down below that. It'll just if they want to crouch down and hide, or if they want
easly, yeah,
you won't see a damn thing.
And we got that here in Minnesota too, where that where you can go in just a few feet and you'll be covered. You won't be seen.
Yeah, that's it's. I don't know, do you have a tick problem up there? Do you have like the Lyme disease?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's why we let my team member Tick go in front of us, so he gathers all the ticks.
Nice. All right, cool.
But then again,
we need a tick for our team too.
Yeah. Then again, that deep woods off. Again, that's a great use. I mean, I don't get a whole lot, but yeah, I swear up and down by that deep woods off. I really do, guys.
Yeah, that's. Well, even like you see those videos of those giant moose just coming out of the woods, like just, they just emerge from like the wilderness, and those things are mad. They're like 2,000 pounds or 1,800 pounds or whatever they are.
Yeah, and those things are I would say moose are more dangerous than bear. To be honest with you, those things will charge you. I mean, a black bear is way more skittish than a moose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
You guys have timber wolves up in Minnesota?
We got timber wolves, Minnesota timber wolves.
Oh,
they
yeah.
They suck at basketball.
They're good at eating moose, though.
All the other sports, you got all the other sports teams are pretty competitive up there. So
yeah, we do. We got a pretty good hockey team, I guess. But
you got to get rid of the dome for the football team.
Yeah,
just my opinion.
It's all good. It's all good. You're still cool. No, I mean, we got our predators. I mean, are going to be bear and wolf and mountain Other than that, we got the massive moose and ungulate deer, white-tailed deer, elk. I've never seen one. I've never found a rack of elk from antler shed, I guess you could say. I've never even heard one bugle in Minnesota yet. So maybe at one time, but now I think they've kind of moved on for quite some time, to be honest with you.
And they have like that distinct high pitched like shrieky call. Like it's
Like
very, very
like you said, a
distinct. Like,
bugle. It's like a
Oh,
bugle.
absolutely.
yeah. Like if you're not familiar with it, you hear that like, you know, something like a deer or an elk, it's probably the last thing you'd think would make that sound. And like it's creepy. It's creepy too, that noise they make. I've never heard it like in person, but just like, you know, from recordings and stuff like that. It's really, really distinct.
Oh, yeah, you can't mistake that for a different call.
All right, so we've been rocking and rolling for about an hour and a half now. Looks like we're gonna have to wrap up in a couple of minutes, unfortunately. One of the other things I wanted to bring up real quickly. This is a bit of like an old urban legend type tale I found on like the internet and stuff like that. We're kind of veering away from the Sasquatch phenomenon with this, but I've heard a couple of stories of people supposedly catching bull sharks in like the Mississippi River around the Minnesota area. I know there's a couple of stories in like of them being spotted as far up as Illinois. There's one story I heard where like a juvenile one was found on like a submerged car or something like that, either the Mississippi or the St. Croix River. Supposedly there was like a tooth found in that really famous park where the waterfall is in Minneapolis. I was just curious.
Oh, really? Like,
yeah.
The Hidden Falls?
I think so. It's like that park, Minnetonka Falls, maybe. I forget the name. I forget the name of the park. I'm just curious if you like heard any. If you like, you know, if you like heard any accounts like that.
I've only heard probably about the. Was there one in the Great Lakes? Was there one in Lake Superior? I don't even know. I don't know for sure. I was just going to Google it real quick. But off the top of my head, I can't say. I've heard stuff both in Mississippi. I don't know if it's been in Minnesota, but I mean that goes over 2,000 miles to Mississippi. I wouldn't have any doubt that they've kind of gone up through the Gulf to the Mississippi. If they have been in Minnesota, they've been placed here. Because other than that, it's just too cold for them to survive.
Plus, it's fresh water, not salt, right?
Well, bull sharks.
So that's the thing with bull shark. They can actually adapt. Yeah, you're right.
Adapt to fresh. Oh, that's scary.
It is scary. I know. Yeah. I've heard of piranhas in some of the lakes and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's always wives' tales about piranhas. Actually, yeah, we have someone here in the chat who looks like they're corroborating that story. The one in the Great Lakes, though, I think that was a story supposedly in Lake Michigan. Someone got bit by a bull shark in like the 50s or something like that. I've only seen like I've never been able to find any like newspaper clippings or anything like that, so I don't really know how true that is. But you know, like where me and Charlie live, you know, back in like the early 20th century, we had those shark attacks along the Jersey Shore, and two people, a little boy and a man, and I think someone like lost a leg or something like that, all in the span of like an hour or so. Those attacks happened in a freshwater creek. What's it called? Matawan Creek. Yep.
That's the movie Jaws.
Yeah. The movie Jaws. Yep.
That's what they base it off of. But the Great Lakes, though, the only thing is you got Niagara Falls. You know, how are they going to get from the ocean to Lake Michigan or Lake Superior? You have to go through the locks. You have to go through the Lawrence
River.
Yeah, but you the state rule. You got to go through the that goes to the Ontario, Lake Ontario, then Erie dumps. You know, the falls come from Erie to Ontario, don't they? I mean, so that means they'd have to jump up the falls or go through the locks. You know, it's kind of unless there's another way around. I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, I think there's like little like lakes and tributary, like little lakes I mean, lakes, so like other like water routes and stuff like that in theory. And then, you got to factor in things like flooding and stuff like that, I know one story, I think it was in the Mississippi or maybe like another river in Illinois. These fishermen, like their fishing traps kept on getting banged up by something. They thought it was like a large pike. So they set them up one day and they came back. Something was like actively rummaging through their fishing, these same fishing traps, and it turned out to be a shark.
Oh, wow.
A bull shark. So apparently they could swim up. Yeah, apparently they.
Also, it was like Al Capone, and he had pets, and he just let them go in the Chicago River, and it made its way to Lake Michigan, right?
Don't make fun of my people.
I didn't. I said Al Capone. I didn't say anything bad. Anyway. Well, he's the only rich. He's a rich guy, rich enough to be able to own like tigers and sharks and stuff like that.
Yeah, true.
Right. Maybe they're misplaced pets. Who knows?
Yeah, very true.
Right.
All right. Well,
that's
Abe,
my opinion.
Abe, you'll stick around for a few minutes in the back end after we wrap up.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Yeah, it looks like we've.
He didn't mean it that way. Mike, rephrase it. Anyway, so,
my wording's just been off tonight.
Oh my god!
Yeah, geez.
I'll hang around for a little bit, man.
Yeah. Long day. That Fed announcement threw me off with the rate hikes.
Hey, you just want to promote whatever you got to promote, man.
For those who are watching this, I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Again, to all of our people who've been following us, Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team, for the past over 22 years. Nothing but love and respect for you guys, and we wouldn't be anywhere where we are without all of our followers. So thank you guys all so much for doing just that. And for those who are new and would like to follow us, check us out on Facebook, Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team. We have a page dedicated to the team, our public page. We also have Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team TV. That's another page. We have Minnesota Bigfoot Conference. That's another page. We are on YouTube at M.N.B.R.T and also Minnesota Bigfoot Research Team. And check us out at MNBRT.com.
Alrighty.
Awesome, man.
Well, Abe, thanks again, man, for coming on. It was really great to catch up with you. After.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. I really do appreciate it, man.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm happy to do it, you guys. Happy to do it. Always to make new friends and network. And to your listeners for tuning in the chat room, you guys, thank you one and all. For those who are checking this out later, thank you as well.
For sure. Awesome. All right, so from behind both tall trees, for myself, Chuck, Abe, we're signing off. We'll see you guys next time. Abe, we'll definitely love to have you on the show again. Maybe we could figure out, getting our two teams together for something in the future, whether it's out by you, out by us, or we'll meet somewhere halfway. So, stay tuned, everyone.
Hey, this is Chuck Larson. You're watching the CARC channel on YouTube.
And one more.
You've been watching From Behind Tall Trees, a Catskill Appalachian Research Collective production. For more information on this program and others like it, remember to like, share, and subscribe to CARC Universal today. To join the conversation on our Facebook group, become a member of the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective Facebook group. CARC. Relentless.